Please, Mrs. Schlueter.
Mr. Alexandrovich?
Here.
Mrs. Evans?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Nielsen?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
I am here, and Mrs. Larson's excused.
Thank you. Has the meeting been properly posted, Dr. Katz?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is the Friends of Franklin Public Schools recognition. We have Mrs. Klein and Dr. Patz doing that recognition.
This is something we really enjoy doing as a district when we have a chance for members of our staff to recognize people that help them in the classroom or throughout the district. We have so many people throughout the year that act as volunteers at all the levels of our school district, and their efforts are really, truly appreciated. They do an awful lot for us. So at this time, I'd like to have Patty, would you come up, please? Yeah, we got.
My recipient isn't here yet.
She's walking in.
She was donating.
She's
her
walking in.
time.
She just walked in.
Did she? Okay. And yes, I'd love to.
Right there.
This is Patty Jenna, one of our teachers at Countrydale Elementary, and Beth Castleman, I have Miller, another one. And Patty, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you nominated Beth for this award?
Oh my gosh, the reasons could take up hours, but basically Beth is such a wonderful volunteer of any time and every time that she has for the benefit of not only her own children, but everybody at Countrydale. And she doesn't just run like a little section of Boy Scouts, she runs all of Boy Scouts. She is always in the building. Everybody knows Beth. Whenever somebody can't do something, Beth is the one, no matter how much she's got on her plate and how much she's already doing, she will be the one to step up and go, I'll do that. And because she knows that, you know, it's always her motto is, it's for the whole school. You know, she knows what to do when she's running book fair, which she had to leave from to come here to rush in, which she's going to rush back to finish out the rest of the night. You know, this was getting into the volunteer hours that she's, you know, always putting in. So, I mean, that's just to skim the surface of really who she is, you know, in her heart of hearts, and what she truly believes in, which is all of our kids. And that's why we love her at Countrydale. And another coworker of mine, Tara Pritchard, was here to also just be here to support and recognize her, because she just does so much for our building and the district. So,
Congratulations.
She's not showing that flyer.
Our second recipient, that's called Gail Clark. Gail, would you come up forward? And Gail nominated Tony, I hope I get this name right, Pichardo? Perfect. Okay, Gail, Tony, come on up. And Gail, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you nominated Tony?
Tony is my video angel. He looked real close. He's got wings back there. It was a chance meeting finding Tony. Steve Olson, you guys may know, our mayor. He's also a Canon camera representative. So I was at a Canon event, and I'm like, Steve, I got to update the stuff in the studio, and I don't know which way to turn. And he goes, I got the guy for you. And Tony happened to be at the same event, and Tony is retired from working in video production. And he just, out of the goodness of his heart, is helping me. And I don't know if he keeps saying, I'm not doing anything. I go, Tony, you don't understand. I am a lone island by myself, nobody to talk to. I have someone to talk to. And he gets it when I talk geek talk with him. It's been such a huge, huge help. He's gone to Chicago with me a couple times to look at equipment, to shadow other teachers, and then to network with a group of Chicago television teachers where he asks all the right questions for me. It's the best. It is absolutely the best. And he's got the most amazing spirit to be around. I always feel fulfilled when I'm around him, and he's just an amazing person. And he's got this great family, and his son, in case trivia, sure you got ready then.
Congratulations.
I'm really appreciative of the nomination and the recognition, but the real thing is, of the school district is really teachers like her, who really, go over and above what they really have to do to make those experiences for these kids much more relevant and meaningful. So these are the real things. No, I'm not trying to lay it on. Thank you. And thank you. Oh.
Here's a t-shirt, March Madness in high school. You guys
It's all right.
Is it tonight?
Yep.
Oh, it's tonight. What are we doing here?
We have a third nominee that wasn't able to be with us tonight, but Rick Caney nominated. And Rick, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Mark Miller and why you nominated him?
Okay, Mark Miller's been our attorney coach for the mock trial team for about the last 10 years. I asked him because his daughter was on the team, and he continued on even, 5, 6 years now after his daughter graduated, and he continues helping us. He tells our students about how the legal system works and how the attorneys, what the role of the attorneys are in the court system. He's really helped us build a pretty good team. We've gone to state now the last 2 years, which is kind of like a basketball team or football team going to state, because we have to win the regional out of 12 teams. And so we've become quite a good mock trial team because of Coach Miller. And I just wanted to make sure that he got recognized. I got to throw a couple things out for you just so you guys all know. This last year, our team won the Spirit of Mock Trial Award as the most spirited team in the state of Wisconsin. And they won it for 2 important reasons. They were very welcoming to other schools at the regional, and they did most of the work on their own this year because I couldn't help them out as much as I could in the past because of family illnesses. So that's very special. And we had the state champion, the best witness in the entire state, 600 students, the best in the state, Maya Greenberg. So I really hope that she gets recognized. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all recipients, and thank you staff members for showing up as well. Thank you, Madam. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is community comment. Per board policy, we allow up to 15 minutes of resident comment. Are there any comments tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Item 6 is the consent agenda. I would like to remove item 6F, gifts, from the consent agenda. Is there any other board member who would like to remove an item? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6E?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Regarding item 6F, gifts, I would just like to acknowledge the very generous donation of the Dr. and Mrs. Schmalz Visual and Performing Arts Scholarship. The donation coming from the former Franklin Culture Arts Center, Inc., with the scholarship named after the group's major contributor. The donation was in the amount of $29,997.11, and it will be used to provide 2 $1,500 scholarships each year for students going on to college to pursue a career in the visual and performing arts. And I'd like to ask the board how we feel we'd like to recognize the donors. If you'd like to have them come to the board, or how Dr. Patz feels about it, because
We generally just send a letter of acknowledgement to them, and we've had numerous donors, as you've seen on all the boards, and generally we haven't had them. It's certainly up to the board if you want to, start that kind of a procedure. but we certainly would acknowledge the Schmalls for their donation.
Because in board policy, when donations are 10,000 or more, we can do a special recognition, so it's up to the board. Any comments?
If you like, we can brainstorm a little bit and run something by the board in terms of a plaque or whatever your wishes are.
I know we've had some large donors in the past that wanted to remain, out of the spotlight, but we respect those wishes, but that might be a nice gesture to have them into a board meeting.
I know the group has dispersed, but I know Mr. Don Dorson is involved with this. It's been in the paper.
Yeah, but that group is sort of defunct, and this is really
Just the family.
just the family, yeah. Another thing we could do is, we are going to be doing some things right outside the Sabre Center. That might be a place for a recognition plaque of some kind. We could put their name on there, too. I think that would be very appropriate.
Well, if you want to get back to us on something.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All those in favor of approving consent agenda item 6F, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. School board announcements. Do we have any announcements today?
I have a couple of things. First of all, I know I saw Mrs. Schleter and Mrs. Evans there, and maybe some of the rest of you came later, at the Forest Park spaghetti dinner for their music program. We were able to hear the choir and a percussion ensemble and part of the orchestra performance, and the kids did a great job, so that was a really nice event. Also, I received an email from the 4th of July Organizing Committee, so I would just wondering if we would like to participate in that again next year, so everybody can kind of think about it, and I'll add it to a future agenda item so that we can discuss whether or not we want to participate again this year.
Thank you. Anything else?
I also was at the National School Board Association conference over the weekend, and I'll probably be reporting on that in the future agenda. It's a big conference and lots of different interesting ideas. Also, I did attend the foundation meeting, Education Foundation meeting. Wendy was there also, and they've hired 2 new employees, so they are starting off again, I think, re-energizing the whole foundation, and still continuing the same events, and I'll probably keep you informed as things go forward.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to just mention that at the March 17th Common Council meeting, we had 3 of our special education professionals come to the meeting and represent the school district and special education to give advice on special needs children. And they did a fine job representing the district and their profession, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. It was really appreciated. So, any other announcements? Okay, thank you. Hearing on the school board calendar, we have a regular board meeting on Wednesday, April 15th, 2015, here at the Education and Community Center at 6:00 p.m., and a regular board meeting Wednesday, April 29th, here at the ECC at 6:00 p.m. Item 9, liaison reports, personnel and policy. Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you. We have 2 policies coming forth tonight, Policy 6740, Guidance and Counseling Program, and Policy 4100, Internal Communications. Starting with the Guidance and Counseling Program, there were some line-out changes that were made. I didn't see a whole lot of language inserted, except for maybe the legal reference on the bottom, but Paulette, if there's anything you wanted to add to this before we get into any kind of discussion, or?
I would just say that the, the focus of the changes that were placed into this policy really reflect the new Wisconsin model, which follows the national model. And so that it really addresses similar things, but it's using the language of those 2 models. So that's really what you're seeing is the personal and social development, for example, academic development. These are the 3 main issues Mike and I have been interviewing counselors all day, and we've been hearing about this all day. So now you get to see the three components of the counseling model.
Okay.
I have a comment regarding the first paragraph where, right after where Health and Human Service is stricken, you have "and community professionals." Seeing that teachers and parents was stricken, do you still mean to have professionals in there? Are you looking for community professionals? Or are you meaning to say all people from the community?
What this really refers to would be outside therapists, drug counselors, hospital day treatment programs, you know, things like that that students might be participating in.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments?
So parents aren't part of this, or I understand how you don't want to, how you're kind of changing that particular sentence for licensed services, but in collaboration with parents anywhere, we don't?
I think the intent of this, and we could certainly, I mean, we do collaborate with parents, but this really is talking about the planning and the provision of those services. And actually, I was just thinking and going back, perhaps after community, Dr. Miller, we could say community mental health professionals, because I think that's really what it's referring to. That might help that piece. I think they're really talking about the provision of those services, so parents don't plan it or provide it. We collaborate with parents because it's about their children, but I think the emphasis should be on who's providing it.
Any other comments? Is it agreed by the board that we would want to add community mental health professionals as recommended?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, is that okay?
I don't know, when you start reading further down and you see the components shall promote, and it's more than just mental health professionals that you might be needing.
Yeah, maybe that's why they said community, because the career, you're right about that, Alan. They're doing, talking about careers that could involve community professionals. So
Right.
maybe you're right, that maybe should remain broader.
Community professionals is pretty all-encompassing.
Yeah. That's probably why they did it the first time.
Yes. All right, and then any other discussion?
So what you cross out at the bottom and then add it in, is that new language that you?
Yeah, we've had a new non-discrim statement for several years now, and if you look, this policy was from 1999, and we have some policies where it's still, the old language is still stuck in policy, and until the board reviews those, I can't just pull it out. So each time we review them, I pull it out and then put in our current non-discrim statement.
And these are all reflecting state changes?
State and national.
And when did those occur?
This was about 3 years ago that we did the new state training in the new Wisconsin model, so I think that was about 3 years old. The national model is probably more like 5 years old, and they do update that periodically.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the revised board policy 6740 as presented. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Alexandrovich,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Schlueter. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Okay, the second policy brought forth tonight is internal communications, board policy 4100. In reviewing this policy, it's recommended that this language is included in the employee handbook, and so that this policy is not needed any longer. Is that correct, Dr. Miller?
Correct. I think that we can find it in the handbook. We could find it in policies, various policies that the board has, the Employee Code of Conduct, which is a school board policy. Our community relations policy would address this in some regard, but primarily within our handbook, there are sections that I think cover what was trying to be conveyed here many, many years ago.
I think it's important that in the handbook, the employees sign off on the handbook, so and we're trying to reduce our policies, so we don't need the duplication here. Any other comments on the policy? Looking for a motion. What's the word I'm looking for? To eliminate, yeah. Motion to eliminate Board Policy 4100. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexandrovich. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, board discussion and action items. Item 10A, the world language trip approvals.
All right, I'll just start by introducing who's here. And our goal for the board to make it a more uniform process is once a year, hopefully at this March meeting, we'd like to bring forward all the trips that will be happening in a full year cycle so you can see the big picture. So you'll be hearing the trips that'll happen throughout the year this evening. So we have the pleasure of all three languages being represented. And I did want to let you know that the international trips don't just happen with world language. We are looking right now at a band trip, and so they're in the process of exploring that. They weren't ready to bring it to you tonight because we have to do a little bit more work, so they'll be coming a little bit down the road with another trip. So that wasn't here because it's a new idea and they weren't quite as prepared as our veterans here that do this often. So I don't know that if it goes in any order, but we have Cheryl and Ben representing Spanish, and we have Charles representing German, and we have Rick representing Japanese, so they can arm wrestle over who would like to. I don't know that they even need to say anything. Maybe if you just have questions, unless there's something you wanted to clarify based on your documents that we attached.
Why don't we just say, Cheryl, why don't you go first, and if you have anything that you want to say, or maybe the board can direct their questions to you, so we. Sure.
If you don't mind, yeah. Thanks.
I have it right here if you want to.
Okay, so basically what we would like to do is propose a trip for our Spanish students for the 2016 school year, the 2015-2016 school year. We would like to travel in June, right at the end of the school year. We're proposing visits to Madrid and Barcelona, to the bigger cities in Spain, to give them kind of, and it's similar to the homestay experience. The difference would be that some students aren't as comfortable with the homestay experience, and so this one is a little bit different than that. The students would stay in apartment hotels, that sort of thing, instead of staying with a family. The experience would be very similar. They would get a chance to experience the culture, compare and contrast the two cities, and get to know, even though we are not going to do the homestay, we were hoping that we could still connect with our sister school and do some activities with them, and we have a whole host of activities planned. We want them to see some of the main attractions to help them get a little bit of a flavor for each of the cities. And we have, on the document that we sent, we had some of the things specified. And the itinerary is still tentative, but this is sort of what we plan to do. We want them to have experiences with the museums, the Royal Palace, some of the, like Toledo, for example, is a medieval city. We usually do a scavenger hunt, so they get a chance to see different parts of the city, feel a little bit more competent with knowing where different things are, and experience things from
a different perspective than they would if they were just a tourist, to kind of get a little bit deeper into the experience. And that's what we would do in Madrid, and something very similar in Barcelona. Different sites, but pretty much the same idea. So that's what it is in a nutshell.
Will this be the first time we've not included a homestay component in a Spanish trip?
No, what we usually do in odd-numbered years, which we are still going to do the homestay. Odd-numbered years, we do the homestay, and the even-numbered years, we usually do the, I don't know what you would call it, more of a planned itinerary type thing, where they don't, that way the students get an option. Like if they don't like the homestay experience, then they know the even-numbered years, they'll get the chance to do the same, a similar trip, but just not staying with a family.
Are they different lengths too, I believe, right? Or are they similar?
The length, the difference, this is the trip itself is the same length. The amount of time we spend in Madrid is a little bit different. We're going to spend equal amounts of time in Madrid and Barcelona this time because of the fact that we're not staying with a family. They won't be as connected with the students that live there.
Right.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the Spain 2016 trip proposal. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Alexandrovich, second.
Second?
Second by Mrs. Klein. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Rather than go through all the similarities, I would just point out that the big difference in this trip is that the homestay is the largest component of it. And depending on what the students and parents decide, it could even be the only component. It's required that they come here first and spend some time with our students and our parents here, and we return the favor. So the homestay would be anywhere from 2 weeks to even 3 weeks. And it's up again to the students and parents to decide whether or how much we would travel. And then once I find that out, then I make suggestions as far as what we might do, but it's really, I leave that up to them.
I just have a question regarding this year versus last year. You seem to have more information last year, and this year you indicate you don't have the host families yet?
That's because, because I'm been requested to come to the board now, and right now, to tell you the truth, we have only just recently sent all the applications to Germany, so right now they are in the process of getting their people together. They will come here first in September and October, and then we wouldn't travel until the following spring, or summer, I should say, in 2016. Yeah, it's very tentative right now and up in the air. I have 14 applications.
Wow, that's a good amount.
Is that a June travel you're looking at again, or?
June, yeah, and we would generally come back the first week of July.
Do I hear a motion to approve the German trip for 2016?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Schlueter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Okay,
Good luck
thank you.
and have a good trip.
Thank you.
Mr. Kenya.
Well, the Japan trip is 2 weeks long, and we do a 5-day homestay. After that, we go and visit Hiroshima. Last time we stayed overnight at Miyajima. That's an island just outside of Hiroshima. I like to stay there when it's a little bit more affordable. The yen's been kind of helping us in the last couple of years. So when we can afford it, we stay at Miyajima because then they get to stay at a Japanese-style inn overnight. After that, we travel on to the Osaka area. In Osaka, we're half an hour from Kyoto, we're half an hour from Nara. Nara, if you don't know, that was the capital even before Osaka, or before Kyoto. So, its history goes back about 1,400 years. So it's kind of a cool place to see. And then after that, we finish up with 4 days in Tokyo, and then it's back home.
Any questions?
So you're going to do the blog again?
Probably.
I'll look for that.
How many do you have signed up so far?
None so far.
None so far, a little early?
We're more than a year and
Yeah.
3 months out,
Yeah.
so I'm still working on getting a taiko drum group coming to perform this summer. So that's the first thing on the priority.
We can definitely come back to the board with those numbers, so you are aware of how many students have the opportunity to travel
Yeah,
international.
last year we had 12, and it's usually somewhere between 10 to 14. Well, if it's me alone, it's got to be 12, because that's the maximum.
Do we hear a motion to approve the 2016 Japan trip?
So moved?
Motion by Mrs. Klein, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Any discussion?
So is there any insurance at all on yours, or do you,
Hmm?
you don't work with any company, so there's no, it's not insured at all, or is?
Usually, no. I
I don't know.
do it myself, so no. But I mean, the 4 years ago, I guess I should say 5 years ago, we didn't go that year, but there wasn't a scare in Japan because of the earthquake, and a number of groups did cancel, and all the major carriers did give back the money, even if it was not done through a company. And we don't pay the hotels until we're there. Luckily for us, I guess, in a certain extent, is Japan's still kind of a cash society, so we don't pay ahead of time for the hotels or anything. We pay when we get there.
And the students are all aware? They're,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we save about $1,000 per student by doing it this way.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Enjoy your trip. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Okay, item 10B, youth option requests. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you very much. I believe you have in front of you youth options and course options requests. You'll note that there are 6 courses that are listed. Those are, and there are actually more students than that, but these were the particular courses that were requested. So our process when that occurs is to work with our counselors and our department coordinators to look at, in the case of youth options, the fact that these courses are indeed above and beyond what we offer. We believe that they are, and we're bringing them before you today. This is the first time we've had course options as well as part of this evening, so I don't know if you want to go through the youth options first or go right to course options as well. What?
Yeah, that's fine
Okay.
to do that.
The other thing that you have is a request for, well, and we can go over the youth options specifically, but if we go over to the course options, you'll see a request for Korean 101. We don't see that as above and beyond. We see it sort of outside the scope of what we offer, so therefore we felt it appropriate that that be deemed a course options request. So the other courses that you see, if you have any questions about them, I believe most of them have been courses that have been here as youth options requests before, with the exception of maybe the programming courses. I know we've had some like that in the past, but I don't know that we've had these specifically.
Question on the Korean course.
Well, that's under course options.
Oh, not,
Yeah.
oh, I thought, okay. That's later then?
So I guess we're going to do the youth options first, so any questions under youth options? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the youth option requests for March 25th, 2015, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, then we have 5 ayes, 1 no. Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move on to the course options.
So Korean 101, why do we have to do this? Because we have language courses. I can come in and ask for any language I want, or?
You can take 2 courses at any other school or institution. That was our policy that we just approved about a month ago. It's new state law.
And it's not, this just happens to be a language course, but it's any course. And we didn't put it under youth options because it's not an extension of our existing courses.
They're 2 separate state
Yes.
programs,
And
correct?
the way they're paid for is different as well.
Right.
So how are we paying for this one, Jim?
State
I don't
law.
recall the particulars on
Yeah,
this.
there's a formula that the state uses for reimbursing us for the courses that people take in our district. So there's, money coming from the state to support this, whether students leave or come to the district. So, and there's a formula for that. It is in our policy.
It was also partially related to part-time open enrollment, wasn't it?
We got rid of that.
Correct, yep.
So this is reimbursable from the state?
Yeah, I think it's at the open enrollment rate, or a portion thereof that we have.
It's not completely reimbursable.
So then we pay UW Milwaukee, and then we turn around and claim it to the state? That's how it works? No.
Right. it would
We
be-
write the
would be
check to
claimed.
UW Milwaukee, and then we,
Right.
Correct.
and Milwaukee gets their tuition, full reimbursement for their tuition, and we just get reimbursed at the rate the state has set.
And they're working right now with, we're working with the CAP classes for world language. The universities are working to determine a set rate that they will charge as well, like with youth options, but they haven't, again, worked out the details because it's such a comprehensive program.
However, under the CAP program, am I correct, parents pay for the credit? Is that
We
correct?
can no longer charge parents because of course options. So this year, the university picked up the tab for the entire program. Next year, we just received information a few days ago, they're charging us X amount of,
They're projecting, I believe it's $50 per credit or $30 per credit. I think it's $30 per credit. Those courses, my recollection, are 5 credits.
Right.
So you're talking $150
per student,
per student.
that the district is responsible for.
And that's the rate that Oshkosh has arrived at, and, how they came up with that. I don't know.
So that's just for the credit? Because
And-
we're providing the course,
Right,
they're
right,
providing the university credit.
Correct.
right.
Even though they're not doing anything other than counting for the credit. How much did parents pay for before?
So It was hundreds of dollars when it first came in.
Yeah.
$500-600 it was. I don't remember the exact amount. But then this last year, UW Oshkosh didn't want to lose the opportunity for students, so they paid the entire, or I'm sure they didn't pay themselves, but they didn't charge us any fee. And they wanted to read more into the course options and make a decision, and they came up with I'm sure it's not an arbitrary number to them, but to us, it was just a random number. And we asked right away, can we look at reimbursing the students? And we looked at course options, and you can't do that.
Do I hear a motion to approve the course option request presented March 25th, 2015?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexandrovich. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstention? Motion carries 5-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is 10C, Board Correspondence, State Budget Position Statement. As the board knows, a few times, some of us have attended legislative conferences, and then we, Mrs. Klein is our governmental relations liaison, and our last board meeting, we discussed the budget, and Representative Skronsky was in the audience and spoke to us, and Mrs. Klein contacted me and asked if we would be sending a position statement to our representatives regarding our discussion that day, but we talked that day and said we would send our own letters if we chose to do that. So we had a little discussion, and we thought we might present to the board that we might decide to send a position statement on this. Other boards have done it. The WASB recommends that we consider that. So Mrs. Klein has some samples in here for us to look at. Two of them are standard samples that other boards have used from WASB. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Klein right now in case she has comments.
Sure. Yeah, I asked to have this added to the agenda. It's been on my mind a lot lately with the budgeting changes at the state level. And also since our state assembly person was here at our last meeting asking for our opinion, I thought it might be a good opportunity for us to share our position and our concerns on it. But of course, we would only do so if, as a board, if we could reach a consensus on what those were. So just kind of as a jumping off point, I did find these examples from other districts that I asked to be put in board docs. There's one from Wauwatosa, one from DC Everest, I'm not sure where that is.
Schofield, Wausau area.
Okay, one from Baraboo, one from Pewaukee, and one from Verona area school district. Four of the five examples take the form of a resolution, and one of them was just a letter, like a memo style letter. So I guess I just kind of wanted to poll everyone and see what they thought about this idea. Certainly, it's not anything that we have to do, but I thought it might be a good opportunity for us to do a little bit of advocacy on behalf of our students and public schools in general.
The ones in the form of the resolution are from the WASB site. They're what they propose, and I did have Megan, just in case the board does like that format, put it on letterhead so that we could sign that if we like that. So we have that ready. Otherwise, if the board does have consensus on something tonight that's different, then we would have to talk about that and put our thoughts together. But I do want to let the board know that there's a bit of a timeline on this. Let's see. Actually, by Friday, Senator Lazich would like to have the opinions of the public and boards. So that doesn't leave us much time. But they still will be discussing the budget in April, but the joint review would like opinions.
Yeah, and I know
by
that the
Friday.
budget committee has been holding hearings statewide
Right.
to get feedback also. I know there were a couple last week, and I'm not sure when the others are.
And we're not required to do this. We still can, individually, you have power also, but.
Right.
So is there any conversation anyone like to add to this?
I would. Dr. Pats had mentioned a couple times that the schools that are getting state monies that are not part of the public school system are not held to the same standards that the public schools systems are held to. And I didn't see that anywhere in any of these sample letters, and I think that's one of the more important things that we should be requesting, because I don't think our school system has problems bringing students in. here at Franklin. I think we do an outstanding job, and when you build a better mousetrap, people will beat a path to your door. And I think we have that better mousetrap. So if we do this, we're really supporting other schools. I think what we have to get is everybody on a level playing field. And if we do that, then if those other schools have issues, and some of them are in lower population areas where they just can't get the students in. And I understand those kinds of problems, but if we do our jobs and produce high-quality education, I don't think those other schools will last as long if they're held to the same standards that we're required to meet. So I sure would like to see something like that in a letter if I were to sign it. Actually, that'd be a requirement for me to sign it.
You're speaking of voucher schools.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of these make reference to the fact that voucher schools tend to take money from the public school systems, but they don't, come right out and talk about the level playing field. So I wouldn't have a problem with adding some language in to that effect, but I'm not sure exactly how to say it, how to best say it.
Wasn't that part of the discussion at that last advocacy conference we went to, that is going to be in this next biennial budget?
It
about
was a recommendation.
I'm just wondering if that's why it's not in here, because it's already in the proposed legislation. Have you heard anything or not?
I didn't.
Maybe that's not the case.
One of these, it was the letter from the Verona School District. In their third bullet point, they talk about unlimited vouchers. The funding for this proposed expansion would come at the expense of all public school students. Yeah, and it just talks about funding issues, not so much about the rules.
Well, they support choice within a public school environment,
Right,
not unlimited vouchers.
right.
So they, without talking about performance, they're just opposed to.
Right.
There's a large advocacy group out there that's also promoting the private schools and keeping things as they are and more vouchers. So there's two sides of this issue in terms of people that are flooding the state government. But to Alan's point, we're not afraid to take anybody on, but make the game fair. And it's not right now.
Yeah, I would agree. If that's something we want to put together in a letter, that we should have that point in there. But I do recall hearing comments from Governor Walker about him saying that it's time to have those rules in place now. Like you said, whether that's just a recommendation or what, but, so, which doesn't mean it can't be in the letter, even if he's already thinking about doing it.
Well, I can tell you, he's had that mantra for a couple of years, and in the end, he always seems to backtrack out of it. So he's not been a reliable, he hasn't made the conviction to be able to stand behind that very well.
I mean, it's even unclear on what kind of testing we're gonna have for our own students, that kind of waivers, doesn't it? So I like the Verona letter, the format. I don't really like the other resolutions. I think it covers some main points as far as zero increase in per pupil. It does it without,
Raising the revenue limit.
I don't think we just want to come across as, more. You have to be realistic sometimes in your statements.
I actually had the opposite opinion. I kind of like the resolutions. I just thought that the verbiage was just a little bit sharper and a little bit easier to read, and it had a little bit less spin on it. That's my opinion.
Looks a little more professional.
If the board is interested, I'm just trying to offer an idea here, in the resolution, if there's an adopted one from WSB, do they have one that's?
This is the one that the other schools have on here is the adopted one from WASB. Could always add to it.
I was just gonna
We
say.
can add anything we want. I have it right here that I could
Yeah,
type it
We could
in.
easily craft a statement to address Alan's issue regarding, public school funds going to private entities at the expense of public schools.
Right. You can take one of these out if you didn't like it.
Yeah, the ones with the resolutions all had fairly common language. There was quite a bit of overlap. And I had kind of mixed feelings on, some of them state the dollar amount that it impacts their own school district, and I had kind of mixed feelings on that. I mean, in part, I felt like it's important for them to know that, yeah, we're gonna be negatively impacted also, but then I didn't want it to come across as being self-serving or that we're whining about it either. So I'm open to suggestions on that.
I think you make a good point. That's one to be careful of, because regardless of your circumstances, they look at dollar amounts, and a particular legislator may say, well, Cadott is only getting $350 and Franklin's getting $200,000. What are you complaining about? And they don't look at the comparity that goes along with
Right,
it.
right.
So I think it's best to keep those out of there.
You do? Okay.
So reference the $150 per pupil cut, but not what that equates to in our budget,
Yeah.
what you're saying, yeah.
A $150 cut, that's a one-year cut, if I recall what Jim said, and then the year after that, it'll be 165.
Right. But you don't get the 150 this year back either, so,
Right.
Right.
along with the other dollar amounts over the last few years that we haven't gotten.
Right, yeah, and the revenue limit is still flat, so. I don't know, I'm not getting a good vibe on whether we're approaching a consensus or not. Linda had some ideas. I think I agree with what Alan was saying.
Well, the other way you could do this is I could write a letter on behalf of the district coming from me and do those same things. And infuse in there that as authorized by the Board of Education, just throwing out an option.
If I can interject, my understanding of a resolution is it's something that's, this board acts on legally. There's a motion, and it's, I think, different than a memo or a letter. It's something that you as a body act upon and approve. So there's a real difference between those two things. So the board has to decide what they want to send forward, something they've acted on as a body or just a letter.
Well, that's why we have to be in agreement. That's why I was saying we had to come to the board.
I can also tell you, and I mentioned this about a year ago to the board regarding advocacy, the lobbyists for SWSA, that organization that we belong to, indicated to us that the strongest letters that seem to get more reaction are those that come from the public, because they look at school boards and school administrators and everybody else as being whiners. And so if you were to take that into consideration, you could write a letter as a community member and probably have as good, if not greater, impact. I mean, there's a million ways to go, but I'm just referencing what we were told a couple of years ago.
But you can also write a letter as a board member on behalf of your constituents by speaking to some of your constituents too. So,
And this is something that Senator Lozich wanted by this Friday?
this Friday.
Personally, I trust Steve to write and take into a letter what our comments are. I think that from what I heard, and by the way, I support the taking out the calculation of how much we as a school board are not going to be getting from the state as a total. I think we want that comment in there about let's get on a level playing field. And other than that, I'd support this letter.
So you're proposing a letter and not a resolution?
A letter from the district administrator, correct?
Yes.
But are you proposing that the letter say also on behalf of the board?
If we as a board say
But-
that we'd like that, and I,
But then we have to review it before he sends it.
I guess I'm more inclined to I'll send my own letter. And I appreciate a draft or, a good start.
There's a
good
lot of
template.
templates out there.
Yeah. I think it'll
But I
be
appreciate
more
you-
effective
I appreciate
hearing
you
from all
sending.
of us as opposed to.
I could send one anyway.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you could put that
always on
together,
it.
and that's something that we can each send one of our own, using that letter, same format, too.
I think we should make a commitment to each send a letter on our own. Just make that commitment that we're going to do it, if you haven't done one yet.
fine.
Yeah, well, I don't mean it like that, you know what I mean. I just think you should say something.
I would like to see a draft, though, that might
Yeah.
help us figure out what we want to
Yeah.
put in ours.
I'll send something out to you by noon tomorrow.
Thank you.
I will email you then the email address to send that to. I have it here, so I'll send that out tonight.
You'll send it from your personal email, not your school board email, right?
On my school board email?
Do you send it from your personal email or your school board email?
I always use my school board email.
When you send it to the senator?
I'm sending it from my school board
Okay,
email.
that was my question.
Yeah. I am. You can do whatever you choose if you're sending it as a citizen, but technically you're not a citizen. Anything else? All right, no? Thank you, Mrs. Klein. Okay. 11, reports and presentation. Superintendent's report, McGrath position study.
I just wanted to bring the board up to date on, usually about every few years, we pick an area and we bring in an outside consultant. In this particular case, it's McGrath and Consultants. And what we're looking for is efficiencies, redundancies, things that are going to make us run better as a district. And in this particular case, we took into consideration all of our office staffs to see if we are in sync with everything regarding how we do reports, who does them, software, familiarity, and so on. When we get into the high school, we also included the guidance area, K-12 as well, to take a look at any areas we might be missing and need some oversight and so on. It's a pretty extensive process. They come in, they do a survey with everybody involved, and they do individual interviews with everybody involved. And then they, because of their knowledge base, they have knowledge and education. They come back, they meet with us individually to see exactly what we're looking for. And what we're looking for is to see where can we get better. It's not intended to be an employee evaluation at all. It's intended to be an operational review of what can we do better. One of the big things that comes up every time we talk about these kinds of things is if someone weren't here on a given day or all of a sudden they were gone for a week or whatever, who does that job? Another factor would be if someone goes from one job to another, are those duties and responsibilities transferred with that individual, or does a new person get them? We look at how we're trained. Are we doing some cross-training so people can do multiple things? So that process is currently in progress, and I'll give you an update on that when it's completed. They were doing some interviews last week. They met with myself. They met with Paulette. Judy, did they meet with you, Judy, last week? And so when that process gets done, I just wanted you to know that we are always looking at how we can do things better, more efficiently, and how we can make sure that we have the right people in the right positions, which is another big factor. We may have some people in positions with limited skills that we need to either train them more because it's not because they're refusing to do it, or we may want to put them in an area where we can utilize the skills that they do have, because some of them have substantially greater skills than maybe what their job is currently requiring. So that, as I said, that process is currently underway, and I will give you a sort of a follow-up to that when it's completed.
And when is it expected, prior to the?
I don't have any idea at this time. They're going to be contacting us this week to tell us how far along they are.
Can I ask the cost?
The cost of this one was I believe $3,700.
And your last one was pretty effective in
The
benefiting.
last one was central
Yeah.
office, and there were some, some things that we got out of that were pretty valuable.
You said about every other year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna do one pretty soon, I think, regarding custodial and some of our support services there to find out, some opinions from those. Because I think it's really important that we get opinion from employees from an outside group, because you can find if you do it internally, you don't always get people that are comfortable telling you what you need to hear. With somebody from the outside, oftentimes they don't care, and they'll say whatever's on their mind, and then you gotta weigh that too, of course, but, so I think it's pretty valuable stuff to do.
Any other comments? All right, thank you. 11B, just noting the treasurer's report is on file in the board docs library.
Can I just, and I did review that, and I do see that our capital fund currently has a $2 million balance. And so when do we expect that project to finish up? I know we had the open house, things looked wrapped up. I know there's still punch
I'll
lists.
take that one a little bit. Usually, we go up to a year, taking a look, and Jim might have some different opinions, because there are things that we intentionally waited on, like I had mentioned to the board previously. There are some areas like outside the Saber Center that we still have some signage, those kinds of things that'll go up. We always take a look at, for example, when the spring is coming up now, if we have outstanding bills, but the trees aren't growing, or the grass is dead, or I noticed today at the high school, we got one tree that's leaning like this, so these things generally stay open for a significant amount of time. Jim, would you add anything to that?
I would agree. We don't want to pay everyone off too soon so that they leave and then we're stuck with whatever they left behind. So we hold money in reserve and only pay it out when it's due. So that'll go on for a little while here as we make sure everything's right before we make those payments.
There's still some large issues like our practice fields. Those really need some extensive work yet, and so we won't have an idea whether they're up to our satisfactory generally till we get into the summer and see some growth going on those and making sure they did a good job of removal of stones and sticks and so on and so forth. So anytime you have a process this large, it extends out several months, if not up to a year.
Do we expect to see funds budgeted in the next 15-16 budget?
For construction?
Yes, in this fund.
No, because those can only be referendum dollars.
So this would lapse at the end of the year?
Well,
Fiscal year?
if it's not finished by the end of the year, we'd show a budget that we would be spending that money out of this fund in 15-16 to finish it up.
And you're expecting to need that?
I think so. I think there'll be something. The question is how big, but I think most of it will be done by then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12 is the board meeting debriefing. Are there any comments?
Did that policy just pop on the agenda today or yesterday?
Yes, I
Well,
apologize for that.
yeah.
I had sent the policy work to Mr. Nielsen and neglected to post it for the board after his review. So I put those policies on late today. Apologize for that.
I was surprised to see them. They didn't seem urgent, so I don't know why they couldn't have slid to the next meeting.
It wasn't
They
intentional.
were pretty simple, too.
I just, one comment about our legislative comments there. There is a meeting that's going to be held on Friday, May 1st at the Polish Center, where State Representatives David Craig, Ken Skronsky, and Jesse Rodriguez will be there from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. It's a breakfast. So I'll email this to all of you, too. I know it's hard if you're working to make it to that. It's $15 to attend. So in case anyone's interested, I'll email that to all of you, too.
It's always nice to see the Friends of Franklin, all the different people that are involved, their volunteer efforts and so on.
Yeah. They're always excited. And we're excited, so. Okay, future agenda items. Board self-evaluation, April 15th. Megan asked that that be returned by this Friday, correct? Thank you. The assessment report, April 15th. And the new school board members' oath of office, April 29th. The election of the 2015-16 officers, April 29th. And the human resources report,
April 29th. Anything else for the agenda?
What is the assessment report?
What is that?
The test, the test.
Oh,
That's a report,
assessment.
Mike.
Assessments, okay. thank
I'm
you.
thinking property assessment.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was just- Nothing was clicking.
We're giving
so-
you a test.
Fair enough.
I could do the conference report probably. if
Oh,
we
yes,
can-
on the 15th?
Sure.
Okay. National Conference Report on the 15th. Thank you. And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Witkowski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries adjournment at 7:06.